Hello, everyone. Welcome to Executive Women in Vietnam, the program that interviews local and foreign business women talking about doing business here. My name is Winnie Lam, your host, and my guest today is Ms. Pham Hoang of Fablab Saigon. Hoang is a social entrepreneur and a co-founder of Fablab. Okay, when we heard the name Fablab, it sounds very industrial because it's a lab.
Yes.
Exactly what is it?
So it's a lab.
Okay.
It's a fabrication laboratory.
Okay.
Right? The first one was started at MIT. That was maybe 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since it grew into a network. Today there are 600 Fab Labs in the world. And in Vietnam, 3.
Okay.
So in Saigon, in Da Nang, and in Hanoi.
All right. So Fablab is a company, is a NGO, or is an interest group? What exactly is it?
So Fablab can come in various forms, basically. So the first Fab Lab was attached to a university. So it was a lab in the university. So it didn't have technically a separate entity. But in the case of Fablab Saigon, we are what we call a grassroots Fab Lab. So we are independent and we are self-funded, basically. And so it is like a business, and because it's driven by its mission, we call it a social business. And because of my background as well.
Okay.
And I care deeply about the mission of the Fab Lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the mission of Fablab?
So the mission of Fab Lab, to me, in the case of Fablab Saigon, is innovation literacy. So basically we want to bring the tools and the knowledge and the network as well to people so that they can come up with their own solutions for local problems and maybe also for global problems.
Okay. It is still very fluid, not really taking shape yet. So what are we fabricating, really?
So there's a course that is very famous, run at Fablab, which is how to make almost anything, right?
Almost anything?
Yes. So the idea is you can make almost anything.
Okay.
And you can do that using digital fabrication. And it's basically fabrication using digital technologies. So technically it's, well, it's a lot of technical things, but if I tell you 3D printer, then people start to picture what it is. Or laser cutting, then it's basically modeling on a computer and send that to a machine that is going to fabricate it.
Okay,
right?
So Fablab had all those equipment.
Yes, we try to, but we're a grassroots Fab Lab, so we have technically everything, but not the best machines.
Okay, so how does one get access or be part of Fablab? Because this, as much as I'm not an innovator. I don't know if I can make anything out of anything except probably in the kitchen. How do people get access?
Yeah. So in the case of Fablab Saigon, for now it's still open. It's free.
So anybody can come.
Yes, you can. Anybody can come and find out. But then, in order to know how to do the things, and we run workshops, so we can teach people, how to use 3D printer, how to model things. We teach also basics of electronics using Arduinos for automation, for example. So we regularly run a full day workshop, introduction to digital fabrication. When we go through all these things. But of course, it's just the introduction. If you want to, learn more about it, then you have to follow a course or something like that. But I think it's not so much the learning that is complicated. I think it's really getting people to think about what they can do, because the tools are there. You can have access to people who can help you with your projects. Of course, it costs a bit of money when you have to buy equipment, material and all that. But at the end of the day, I find that people who stick around Fab Labs are people with ideas. Like they want to do something, so they stay here, they come every now and then, they develop their own ideas.
Is there any age limitation?
No, so I think for now, the most regular people are actually students. They come for their own projects.
Okay.
So we have also 11th, 12th grades who come, and they take part in the activities, and they're looking around for ideas, and they just try basically.
Is it okay? I being not an innovator again, it's very hard to imagine what people will try to make out of nothing. So what kind of attempts are people making at Fablab? Are we looking at the next rocket, or are we looking at some kind of technology innovation?
Well, we're not an R&D lab. We're not, we're not a university lab. We're not doing like very, in-depth research and development. It's more practical. It's more solution-oriented. So we have students who come to make like a small model or something. So, they just come here, they use the laser cutter, they glue, they paste, so it's, equipment that they don't have access to otherwise. Some work on electronics, so they work, for example, on the drone projects. So, they can do that at university, they can do that in their room, but it's more fun for them to come and do it at Fablab, then they get more support. Some take part in challenges, like the Young Maker Challenge, and then they take part in the competition, and after that they want to go further, and so they come to Fablab. So it's a place for them to hang around, basically.
So Fablab is a social business or social enterprise per se. Okay.
Yes. Well, Fablab Saigon.
Fablab Saigon.
Not all Fab Labs.
Okay, Fablab Saigon. So what exactly does Fablab sell?
Yes.
As a business?
That's a really good question. We do many things. Maybe too many, but we do a lot of things because we find out that a lot of people are asking for things, basically. So we have schools, especially international schools, who come and say, well, this is great, we want to bring that in the program for the students because they want to teach about, designing technology. And so we can offer that, basically. Right? We've done field trips for schools. So they come, like 20 students, they come to the Fab Lab, they discover, we run a workshop or something like that. So that's for, I would say, ninth, it starts from 8th grade to, 11th grade or something like that.
So high school students.
Yes. Then what we do as well is that we offer membership, but it's a co-working space that we use on top of the Fab Lab. So not technically in the makerspace. So we have the makerspace on the ground floor, but then we have a co-working space on the higher floor. And that we offer membership because it's important to us to have a space and we can run events and things like that. And actually that's one of our activities as well, is to run events. So we run events and workshops at our space. So for example, last weekend we've been organizing the OSC days, which are open source circular economy days. So it's basically using design technology in an open source way to look for ideas that fit with circular economy. And the idea of circular economy is how do we build, a world that, doesn't technically generate waste, right? So because it's taking into account sustainability issues. It is actually one of the global goals. I don't know if you know about the 17 global goals by the UN, but I think goal number 12 is responsible production and consumption. So it fits a little bit in that, and in my point of view, it completely fits with the makers movement and what Fab Labs is kind of promoting as well.
Okay. Now, Vietnam being a developing country, now personally, I am not seeing Vietnam as an incubator of innovations, at least at this point. How do you see it? You're obviously seeing more people that want to change the world on a daily basis at Fab Lab. So what is your opinion on that?
I think that Vietnam has, well, Vietnam has it's very deep in Vietnamese culture, is the entrepreneurial spirit. Every Vietnamese, I think they relate, they are very reckless at being independent, right? I think it's historical. It's maybe because, Bác Hồ said, there's nothing more precious than freedom and independence, So I think somehow it's very deeply rooted, and I think that Vietnamese are very ingenious as well. So they do come up, they are very resourceful, going through the war.
I must agree, they're very resourceful.
Okay, and being resourceful is one of the key in being an entrepreneur, right? That's where you start, right? Then you have to, sell a service or something like that. But I think that there is a real momentum right now on, entrepreneurship, not only in Vietnam actually, right? It's everywhere in the world, and Vietnam has potential because Vietnam is young. People are well educated. So in specific things, especially engineering, math, science, and it's not, it's missing a few things, but I think that we have to be ambitious about what the ideas and the businesses that will come out of that are already coming out of Vietnam, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So Fablab being a kind of innovation incubator, have we invented anything yet?
No.
In the lab?
No.
No.
Not in our lab.
Not yet.
Not yet. There are a lot of things. So basically, entrepreneurship today is more about software, because software is easier. It's easier, not in it's not technological wise. It's not easier. It's just that it is easier to access, right? If you want to start a company in business in software, then technically you just need a computer, a good internet connection, right? And you create the next big app or something like that, right? If you want to start up in hardware, then it's much more difficult. And I think that's part of the mission of Fablab, is to lower the cost of of trying to build something, building solution or building innovation. Innovation in software is easier. You take, there are plenty of APIs. You can mix and match, and you can build something. It's all the virtual work, right? If you come to hardware, then it's the world of atoms, and it's get a little bit more tricky. But with Fablab, basically, we're giving access to the tools. We're giving access to the knowledge.
Okay. Now, I imagine that Fablab being a social enterprise in Saigon, you have partners, right?
Yep.
So what kind of partners do you have, or what are the kinds of partners you'll be looking for?
Yeah. So, for example, I said earlier that what we do is events, right? And so I think what we do basically is that we run events such as hardware hackathon, right? And these are to promote this is to help basically the very early stage of the pipeline of possible projects, right? And so lately we've been partnering with UNICEF, the US Consulate General, and the Israeli Trade Mission, and also an NPO for people with disabilities. And we put together an event that is called TOM. So it stands for Tikkun Olam Makers. And basically what we did is that we called for challenges from children with disabilities, and we put together teams. We called for participants and put together teams with different skills, so engineering, mechanical engineering, design, maybe IT as well, right? And they've been working on some ideas, basically, right? They came up with ideas, and then they get to prototype it within the framework of the event, right? And so, when I said that no products have come out yet of Fablab. I think it's because we are so focused on that early stage. You know, when we talk about education, we're super early stage. We're talking about, you know, seeding the entrepreneur mind into, you know, like
awareness.
16 years old, right? They're not going to start a business right away, but it's something that they bring with them throughout university and, you know, maybe through their first years of working experience. And they get that, you know, they still see that they can come up with good ideas, they can innovate, and those innovation can be maybe commercialized, right? So with those hackathons, then we're creating a playground for people to come up with ideas. But not only ideas, we bring them challenges, because sometimes it's not, you know, good business is not only about the solution, it's about the problem. If you don't have a good problem, then technically you're not going to have a good business either, right? So by organizing this kind of events, we hope to create a lot of ideas, and not only ideas, we want to make them into prototype, you know, because ideas on paper are just worth nothing. So
when we get to prototype, we're closer to having a product.
Exactly. And when you have a product, then it's easier, when you have a prototype, then it's easier to raise money as well to help you to develop further, basically. It's like in software, you need like a mock-up or something like that. You know, you have to have a beta version or something like that. You have something to show. It's not enough, you know, to just have a concept and write it on the yes, exactly. And so we want to help those teams through these kind of activities, these kind of events, to come to prototypes, right? And not all the prototypes, you know, maybe out of 100 prototypes, then maybe just one will be worth going further. But even though, you know, that's good, you know, if you you know, because people, especially in entrepreneurship, they have to try and fail very often before they get to, you know, something successful, basically.
Yeah, I've never associated entrepreneurship with innovation. But actually, I think they're very closely associated. Now, I understand that even individuals wanted to be involved or want to borrow or want to be part of the expertise of Fablab, they could access themselves fairly easily by just going there. Then how about company who may be interested in seeing if there are ways to partner or to find ways to stimulate their own employees?
Yes.
Like,
that's actually a very good point.
How could they get involved, or how could they do it?
So I think that's where we have expertise, basically, is that we know how to run these events and these kind of activities, and we could run them for individuals
customized.
in a customized way. So elsewhere in the world, they would, you know, Fab Labs are often used to test, for example, new products. Or if a company has a new product and want to see how it's going to be, could be used, then Fab Labs come in as, you know, Fab Labs basically leverage grassroots innovation. So instead of giving that idea to, a few people in a lab and, you know, giving those technologies or giving those products to a few people in a lab, they give it to the community. Right, and then they ask the community, what would you do with it, you know? And so that's grassroots innovation. It's basically leveraging the community with the ideas, right? And one of the most famous quotes for Fab Lab is, give ordinary people the right tools and knowledge, and they will build extraordinary things. So that's the belief that, you know, if you give people the technology, then they will come up with ideas. So it's like crowdsourced innovation, right? It's grassroots innovation. And so I find, because my background is also in management, you know, agile, in software, and I find that in companies, in big organizations, they're losing on that now, you know. It's like people are so specialized that we don't ask them for their ideas anymore, right? And so there's a way of running activities such as the one that we run, where we facilitate, you know, the fact that, you know, employees, everyone in the companies have ideas and they can contribute to that, right? Google is very famous for setting up, you know, the 10% time where, you know, staff would just come up with ideas, and maybe, you know, that's their lab. You know, the lab is giving time to the employees, right? But you can facilitate that as well through activities, events, and things like that.
Well, I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing the extraordinary things coming out of Fablab. This is all very exciting, and I think it is creating a more diversified landscape for Vietnam development. So the younger generations actually have a chance to realize some of the dreams, and actually there's a place to try to put it together, and then they're like-minded people to talk about it.
Actually, we're more ambitious than that, because we know that Fablab Saigon is just one place in one district. In Saigon, we know that there's Fablab Da Nang, there's Fablab Hanoi. We have a project, we have a program, we're just starting it basically, for this summer, to run a mobile Fablab. So we want to get on a bus or a truck. We haven't decided the format yet, but it will be something that is, that we can drive basically. We went to tech atolls, and we want to go from south to north through 11 cities. And in each city, we want to run a program that we actually run at Fablab already. We called it a 48-hour boot camp. It's 48-hour boot camp, and the boot camp is called Maker to Entrepreneur. Right. The motto of Fablab Saigon is entrepreneurship starts with making, and within a format of within 2 days basically, we can run this program where we take kids from 14 to 18, and we introduce them to digital fabrication. And we encourage them to build, to ideate, to find problems, to find ideas, and then we help them to build it using digital fabrication. So hopefully, the idea is that, later on for Vietnam, there's not only like 3 Fab Labs, but many more Fab Labs. And as we're talking about grassroots innovation, we have to look for that innovation, not only in the big cities, but also in rural areas and in smaller cities in Vietnam.
That's definitely very exciting. I wish you all the success. And I want to hear about all the success story about this, no matter it's bus or truck, going through Vietnam. And I can see a lot of very happy youngsters in Vietnam having the exposure and the opportunity to something new and different. So keep up the good work, and we look forward to the good news.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hoang today. That's it for today. Executive Women in Vietnam. See you again. Until next time, I'm your host, Winnie Lam. Thank you.